What's up, it's Nez, and hello everyone, welcome back to The Letter. Last episode, we finally invited Ash over to the housewarming party today, and well, it feels like we're gonna have an investigation. The night wears on without further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is still there. And as expected, the second I step out of my flat, it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults echoing from the floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted, shame.
What the hell were you thinking?
Who's that?
I wasn't. Ow! Could you let go?
Are Ash and Isabella fighting? Not a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs with Ash pulling Isabella by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold of her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood, as she attempts to pry his hand off with her other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away. Neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has a good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So on they go, none the wiser to my presence. Hello guys, I'm awake, we're in the hallway, why are you all fighting?
Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in?
Are you planning to break into the mansion?
That's why I'm asking you for help.
Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabella.
Rose died, Ash.
Oh, this is definitely about the mansion.
I know. Every single person in Luxburg knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean...
People are missing. Some of those are my friends. And BRC's just covering it all up.
You can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it, right off the bat.
There's something called due process.
This isn't a children's game, Isabella. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us.
Or maybe we do.
Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will...
It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it.
You know what, Ash? We're gonna get you to die sooner or later. Just shut up for a moment.
It was funny the first time, not so much now.
You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't.
All right, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here?
Both of their heads snap up almost in unison. A displeased frown is on each of their faces, but this is necessary interruption. What can they do? People still in their units have already taken interest in the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creak open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a reprimand from her is the last thing I want to happen first thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault.
Well, if you want to continue this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people.
Don't worry, we're done here.
No, we aren't. Becca, I looked it up. I called them. I visited some of them and...
Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabella, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us.
And they're probably gonna die too because of the ghost.
Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose. There are others.
That last bit strikes a chord, prod strongly at a memory. At the vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind. The image appears clear enough that at the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question.
What do you mean?
The letter, Rebecca! It's not...
It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that dumb letter, none of us would be standing here. We've all read it, haven't we?
Well, Ash, well, people have been seeing things, including Zach.
But Rebecca's alive, Zach's alive, I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse.
You mean if any one of us died in the prior chapters, you would have actually given a shit?
There's a murderer on the loose, and your co-workers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabella. It's too early for this shit.
Don't you think that's too much for a coincidence?
Not so much. Most serial killers follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time.
Yeah, and that pattern involves a letter.
And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is, civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger.
I wasn't chasing after.
Will the both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute? What's this about your coworkers, Belle?
Oh, they dead.
Becca, please don't tell me now you believe this shit.
Sure, in a heartbeat I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been, besides having a very good point. Really, they're the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I'm seeing, sensing these past few days. It doesn't matter what Isabella or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and the letter that she picked up is at the heart of this. Belle, you shouldn't be doing these things. I might have seen her! Ashton in particular won't be too happy to hear it. Imagining the look on his face doesn't take too much effort. His entire posture shifts the moment my reluctance shows, shoulders tensing, brows furrowing, eyes gaining a sharp edge. He's already bracing himself for the disappointment. And it will be a disappointment. Not in a million years did I ever believe I'll be saying this either.
I might have seen her. The woman Belle's been telling us about. The one she said she saw in the attic.
Both of them stare at me like I've grown an extra head, and for a few moments Ashton looks as if he's about to have a fit. A pause tread at its heels after, a silence thick enough one can almost hear a pin drop.
You're kidding, right?
No, we're fucking not.
Do I look like I'm joking?
Really, Becca? Not funny.
Ash, I'm not lying. Why would I lie about this? It's been this way since the film fest. The past few days have been really odd since we read that letter.
Finally, you're believing us.
Last night, you mentioned Zach hasn't been acting like himself. Maybe you should ask him too.
Because he also saw it. We survived so many chapters.
Or maybe you're all just feeling under the weather.
I'm not sick. Don't you think I'd know that by now?
Becca, you're starting to sound like Scaredy Cat. Give me a break.
Why don't you?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you two.
Isabella's voice cuts sharply through the conversation, abruptly putting an end to the brewing argument.
It's all my fault. This is all my fault. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. I'm sorry for dragging you all into this.
Well, we also dragged the priest into this, and all those workers that worked on the mansion, and also Johann, so practically everyone's gonna die. She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in that moment something falls behind her eyes as she looks away.
I'll fix this. I promise.
Why can't we do it together? You know, there's strength in numbers. A quiet resolve. The same one I saw in her that night from 3 days ago. But this time, it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight. When she looks him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens.
Belle, there's nothing to fix. The problem is...
Just this once, Ash.
Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops him. Along with it, every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words.
You don't have to come with me. But if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it.
She lays a hand atop his. Gentle. Pleading. Almost intimate if one doesn't consider the circumstances we've found ourselves in.
Please.
Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it even to himself, but it's in that short second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes softens and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordlessly, Isabel steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small lackluster smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender.
Did you really have to tell her that?
What do you want to hear from me then? That everything's fine?
Because it's not.
No, I want all of you to stop putting these ideas in her head. None of it is helping. Never mind. Don't worry about her. I'll bring her back here.
I'll just follow her. He's already poised to leave when my own instinct takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's already made it clear he's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all of this will take us, how all of this will end? He shouldn't be caught off guard, beliefs notwithstanding.
Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying. And you know me. I'm less inclined to believe in those things as you do. But I've seen something. There's something strange going on here. You don't have to buy it. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But please, try to hear her out. It's bad enough that Isabella goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it.
Can't you at least protect her, you dense fuck?
Talk to her, okay?
As if she trusts me enough for that.
Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this, instead of me, already say a lot?
You dense motherfucker, why does anyone like this character? A different kind of trust, granted implicity and never spoken, sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a long moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to do is a small nod before he departs, and a promise to, at least, to listen to her, without the teasing or the jibes. A favor for me and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I can do for him as well until I've understood what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for. Now we're back here at the oh my god mansion. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden whatever Isabella claims dwelling in this mansion becomes the least of my concerns. That's right, because we can't forget that Marianne is stuck underneath the mansion and we have to save her. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars worth more than my own apartment and childhood home combined line the mansion's front yard. Men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivities to start, while some are simply idling about, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once the woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright from the confident manner she holds herself among present company. This despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best, at worst she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxborn.
Welcome everyone.
Hello there, our blonde waifu. And Mum said we could have been good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guest she has. Though I admit she does seem familiar, now that I've seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes too fancy for my taste. They flit briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above her enraptured audience yet again.
Please, make yourselves at home.
I wish I can share her enthusiasm, really. But being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside this place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand...
Be careful with Shirley, alright?
Oh god damn it. For someone who abhors gatherings like this, he already seems right at home. Standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car.
Can't you at least act with a bit more shame?
Becca, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, there will be hell to pay.
Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley.
Something tells me Shirley's gonna be wrecked by the end of the game. My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles, a rare moment where mirth and amusement dance across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness to it, in how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet.
Chief?
Oh god, Lee? An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what it is exactly.
Ashton, what's...
Sorry, Becca, I just saw someone I need to catch up with. Longtime friend.
It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His gaze darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face. Aw, you see Lee?
Oh wait, Ash, what about...
This won't be long. Be careful while I'm gone, okay?
I meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I can ask, already he has turned his back from me and is walking away, without a single explanation whatsoever. In some desperate effort, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and this odd warning at the end.
Hey, be careful! About what
Nice job leaving your date. Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mom's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer.
Yes, I'm at the party already, Mom. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can.
The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party and to send their regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get to look up, Ashton's already heading inside. With a sigh and admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and follow after him.
So much for date.
Exactly right? Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to be a terrible evening. And we're here, back in the ballroom. The party hits full swing an hour later. With the host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband, the poor woman, and the guests promptly fed, the band shifts the melody to a livelier tune. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments, the flurry of dancers making the music of their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them. And I can. A single nod is all it'll take, and the evening would have been far more enjoyable for me. But pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially when the very person at the center of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two between takes, or a small wave of his hand as he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out of sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, and another he's hovering around a string band. Just a second ago he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next thing I know he's gone. Oh, he's probably investigating. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he only agreed to come with me for another reason. Well, looky here, the girl is also as dense as Ash.
I swear, the next person who asks, I'm dancing the night away with. Ashton can go fuck himself.
You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think?
Hi there, Hannah. Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshite wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard any of the profanities I've mumbled or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greeting me with a smile when I turn attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly to my liking. But I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snooty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? Oh yes, she does. I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot more people like Lil Becky throughout the years, might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be.
Didn't realize the housewarming was going to be this fancy. I would have gone with a nice dress if I knew.
Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the parvenu, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the black-haired beauty, isn't he?
Ah, fuck him. It takes me a while to realize who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again in closer proximity than any of the times he has done so far this evening. Still without a look of acknowledgement our way though, even if Miss Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot.
Who, Ash?
You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name. Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time.
Oh no, he's not exquisite at all, he's an edgelord.
I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections.
Oh, Rebecca wishes. This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My coworkers more often than not assume he is. A few of my neighbors also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those, he has been quite indifferent about it in fact. Still, the heat of the blush creeps up to my cheeks, a denial ready despite wanting it to happen so badly myself.
What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend.
I remember this moment, the ghost is gonna appear behind us.
Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it.
And I haven't been looking at him.
Really, Rebecca? I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily falters.
That's right. You've been staring. Quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him.
Probably both.
It's more the latter currently.
Just don't go murdering him on my property.
The ghost can do that.
I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there.
Oh, we're not having that scene with the ghost appearing. It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lights up, and fondness graces her face, despite the meeting from several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things we can't really avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are loads we could have started with.
Yes, oh, I remember you! You were the cutest little thing with glasses!
I still want a picture of that.
And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad called something with an A.
I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen all so I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective for heaven's sake, but feelings more often than not escapes him.
What was it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew?
Which makes this whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married, to the man she probably loves at that. While I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person.
Ashton! Ash! That man is that boy! The same one. Oh, goodness me, after all these years! I can see why, though. He's quite dashing.
I don't get the appeal at all.
You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know? Keep it down.
I'm so sorry, but it really is cute.
She says that, but for a short moment, a hint of pity flickers in her eyes. I take that as a chance to change the subject, before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself.
So, this is a nice party, Miss Wright.
Has anything weird happened lately? Though to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up. The topic has already captured her attention.
Please, Anna's fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little infatuation, Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet.
I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for.
Oh? And what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending?
The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales.
Or horror movies or horror visual novels.
They are, sorta. I don't think you can just sit around, trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love them, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work at it.
Hypocrisy, that's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing. And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whatever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at any other, because I'm the one who stayed by his side the longest. When in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him. I can only hold on to these, take care of it until the time comes I can confess to him. Great if he reciprocates, but if he can't? If he won't? Selfish. I've been too selfish.
But what do I know?
I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about.
At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks has also seen changes in the way I view things. As nice as these things sound, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true for other people or for myself. It is sobering and almost funny how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddying each of them. But there will be time to mull over these later because when a hush suddenly descends the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when fucking Luke, strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around with him.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party? I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion.
Before long, Hannah leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to piece it all together.
Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are our ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen, if you would excuse my presumptuousness. So, enjoy the feast that has been laid out for your senses as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone!
His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with a part of the city? Of fucking course. I should have known. Although I'm partly at fault here, tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected that wherever Luke fucking Wright is, some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it, figures he'll find him on his own, even when he's not asking for it. Oh, and we have this moment. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots. The people lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on, until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps.
I am pregnant with your little bastard. You promised me you'll take responsibility. God damn it, Luke. I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and you do this to me!
What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true?
Lies and slander, woman! Security! Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool of herself!
No, you do not do this to me! I was so ready to leave my stupid oaf of a husband. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby?
I remember this moment. I called you a bitch.
Does she look like she could take care of a baby?
Yeah, you're a fucking bitch. The commotion doesn't go further despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up, escorting her out. Apparently she's the chief inspector's wife too. As if this whole thing can't get even more fucked up than it already is. What a mess. But the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke too in part. I've seen the man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him. No matter how questionable it is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. And Hannah? Well, as refined and well-mannered she is in front of their guests, I'm not sure she'll be all too willing to tolerate this. Her party, her home, her husband, and that woman just dared to walk over it. Yet when I glance at her, there's only defeat, a wary slump on her shoulders, and a certain depth to her breathing. Like the fight is already drained out of her long ago. I don't know since when this has been going on, I don't know either of them well to judge for myself. I'm simply an outsider who happens to have some sort of connection with them both. But the air of a person who wishes for respite is all too easy to see in her as she quietly watches the commotion carry on around her. In a moment before I can think it through, I'm pulling her to the side and waving Zachary over to us.
Becca! This is a real oh, hey, Miss Wright.
Hello, Zachary. I told you to call me Hannah. Did I not?
Yes, she did, Zach.
Yeah, you did.
Admittedly, this air of familiarity between them catches me off guard. I won't put it past Hannah. Her standing in society compels her to keep appearances, the be nice to everyone sort of thing. While Zachary's growing client base sometimes calls for rubbing elbows with the rich and famous. Although from the way it appears, this one seems to go beyond maintaining a facade or work. I wonder how this friendship came to be. I'd ask, but we're starting to attract some curious eyes, most of them probably searching for some more gossip, something to add fuel to the fire. Thankfully, there's no need to explain to Zachary, he's aware of the situation all too well.
So, this is what you called me for? We gonna get Hannah out of here?
We are, and we're gonna go dancing.
That'd be great.
And investigating. Soon, he's leading the three of us out of the ballroom. Anyone who dares speak or approach on our way out, I shut down with a sharp glare. In a few steps, we're out, away from the commotion and the suffocating tension. I don't stay long with them, though. Even if I want to, Ashton's still somewhere in that crowd. I've got to go back for him at least. No matter how much the idea of that alone sends an unpleasant twinge in my stomach.
Hey, I gotta go back in there. Completely forgot my bag like an airhead, and I'll see if I can tag Ash on the way out. You'll be fine here, right, Hannah?
Not to worry, dearie. I'll just be right here.
Oh, you two have fun.
Zach will be with you if you need anything.
Besides, it seems Zachary can handle this without any other person helping out. In fact, for some reason, I've got this strange impression I might be intruding on something if I elect to remain. Better to entrust this with someone she's comfortable with. And though it might be a little inappropriate considering what transpired, a smile worms its way on my lips as I leave. Good on them, I suppose. Chatter has exploded throughout the whole ballroom once I return. Worried murmurs, clicking of tongues, and inappropriate gossip filters through the thick tension of the room. Most of them haven't even left the premises and they're already talking about it. Tomorrow it'll be on the news for sure, in every local broadsheet and tabloid in Luxbourne. No wonder Luke's knee-deep into damage control. With the scandalous woman gone, he has turned his attention on the media covering the event. Though so far he isn't faring well in the cleanup department.
Now, people, we all know the drill. I'm sure you're all itching to get a start on those articles.
Good thing Zachary isn't here. I can't imagine a man of his temperament dealing with someone like him.
But if I read one word, see one picture about this come morning, even a single shot of the bloody wine glass the harlot held, you will all lose more than your jobs.
Luke's diatribe goes on for another few minutes, after which he excuses himself out of the area. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause before the place comes astir again, but shortly the buzz returns. Dancers have once again taken to the floor and their guests' excited talk begins anew. But I couldn't care less about any of this now, simply standing in the middle of it already gives me a headache. When the shock has faded, I just feel bone tired. I've accomplished nothing of what I've come here for, and apparently Ashton's disappeared sometime during the commotion. I'm not sure what pisses me off more. That he ignored me the whole evening and might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that, yeah the fucker?
He didn't have to lie to me.
It's the last straw. No longer in the mood, I grab my bag and head out, more than ready to end the disastrous night as early as possible. As it turns out, the night isn't done with me yet. Because no sooner has the porter closed the door behind me, I find myself standing in the foyer with one Luke Wright. No sign of Hannah or Zachary. Well, they're off probably dancing somewhere in the garden. Just him and the agitated clicks his shoes make while he treads around the empty room. Away from the media's prying eyes and their guests' judging stares, it's easy to glean how much the scandal has him shaken. Not to the point where he's utterly lost his composure, he appears to have mastered himself enough not to. But an ample opening is there for a nervous edge to show on the lines of his shoulders.
What do you know?
The man is not as tough as he makes himself out to be. Sure, I've seen this before, briefly in that 1 second in the hallway at school. It's a strange matter, however, to witness this out in the open. Behind closed doors, this is the real Luke Wright. Though maybe that's because he hasn't noticed my presence yet, busy as he is with his thinking. If he's aware, I doubt he'll be acting like this. His pride is one thing he will always wear with him. Even now, when I place a gentle hand on his shoulders, he whirls around to face me. There's a second long moment of anger flashing across his features before it dissolves into confusion. He tucks it away as quickly as he can, but it does nothing to change the impression I've built of the man in my head.
Daisy, must you be everywhere?
We've only met 3 times, Luke. Quit the dramatics.
So what happened back there?
Besides, shouldn't you be aware of who gets invited to your party?
If I was, there wouldn't be any of that scene tonight. That munter wouldn't even get an inch within this property. I'd ban her off Luxport if I could.
But is any of it true though? He probably pawns everything off to their servants and Hannah. Pompous elitist douche.
Did you just come out here to lecture me about it? Because, Daisy, I can already feel one coming tomorrow. I don't need to hear one from you tonight.
You are a very unpleasant man.
So I've been told. Will that be all? If so, I suggest you go back and join every bloody goss in that room.
Not everything. As unpleasant and frustrating talking with this man is, he deserves the benefit of the doubt at least. The questions and criticisms aren't lacking, of course. But right this instant, there's only one thing that comes to mind. Is it true? You should be with your wife.
Is there some truth to it then?
To his credit, he does appear extremely offended and repulsed by that notion. His mortified expression alone answers the question, but I want to hear it from him, even if he takes nothing short of a derisive tone just to answer that.
Daisy? Oh, Daisy. If you believed every scandal that came along, I'd have 100 children already. Do me a favor and give me a break. I get enough of this false shite from the tabloids.
Well, I'm sorry for asking. I just wanted to hear it from you, douche.
And now that you've heard it, does it change anything? Are we going to start seeing miracles now? A solution to poverty? Pigs flying in the sky!
Ghosts haunting a mansion?
Is some friendly concern such a hard thing to comprehend for you?
He pauses at that. Suddenly he doesn't know what to do with his hands, and in the end he simply stuffs them back into his pockets and sulks. I'm not too shocked it caught him off guard. There probably aren't many people who will tell him that. He's a difficult man to get along with. Zachary probably won't want to be anywhere near him, despite the man having the patience of a saint. Ashton he can tolerate maybe, though I highly doubt he can keep it up with Luke. Dealing with him requires more than patience. It's a huge mystery why I still bother. When the awkwardness pauses, mostly coming from him, he merely glances away.
Maybe. I don't need your stupid friendship.
Oh, looky here, we have a tsundere.
Good heavens! I really want to ask how Hana's able to deal with you.
He's interested, I can tell from the frown he shoots my way. He's likely wondering how I've ended up knowing her. I'd humor him any other day, probably tease him and keep him guessing just to annoy him if I'm in a good mood. But my own patience is nearing its ends. After Ashton, after the whole fiasco here, and now him. He won't even answer my questions properly, why should I answer his? Moreover, there are other matters more important than that. His marital problems, first and foremost, his attitude follows right after. And also Marianne that's stuck under the mansion, hello? Concerns aside, I can't help with those. Those are things only he can fix, and it's definitely not by standing around here. So with a slight wave of my hand, I end it right there and walk away from him. Although I can't resist the urge to glance back before I leave, if only to have one last look at the man he really is. But the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it. Fuck! Looming over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame. Like the first time I've stepped inside this place in search of Isabella. He was there too, wasn't he? That man along with his wife and another person. Miss McCullough? And that shadow. No. A woman now. Her. No longer a dark blur. Terror rushes through every vein in my body. A crippling sensation gripping every part of me while she stares at me with a glare filled with nothing but hate and venom. It's like staring at the eyes of a woman I've unknowingly robbed of something precious. I try to say something. A warning. But before I can gather my wits and voice it out, someone shuts the door behind me. As if to keep outsiders away from the secrets this mansion possesses. The brush of air against my cheeks does little to dampen the chill in my bones. By now, the sensation, the fear and disquiet it leaves whenever I see her is familiar enough for me. Already it has made a home in my nerves. I don't even notice my trembling hands until I cross my arms across my chest. The cold from the tips of my fingers seep through the thick material of my shirt. Neither of it helps bring together some semblance of coherent thought in my head. But I know I should.
Someone has to tell that douche.
I start walking back before fear can cripple me again. It's not wise. Returning, that is, especially after what happened. But Hannah's still an old friend, and Luke doesn't deserve whatever misfortune that letter might bring. I can't just leave those two in there. Isabel's right. She's real, and there's something she wants from everyone who has read that.
Becca, where'd you go off to?
Ashton?
If we're done here, let's go.
No, we're not done, Ash. My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp night air, it's that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, purpose forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. The straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help temper my anger either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him.
Shouldn't I be the one asking you that?
Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like...
And before that, where have you been the entire evening?
Right then and there, I might have forgiven him, if he's shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, given me a sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst a thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I can summon.
Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself.
Fuck off, Ash, we don't need your help. No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him and stomp over his car. Although before I can pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders.
Wait, Becca.
He pauses, his brows furrowing and his lips curving into a slight frown. I can almost see the gears turning in his head, while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using his words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will only come out blunt and coarse when forced. But today, for one reason or another, I simply can't summon that forbearance.
Ashton, if you're just going to waste my time again...
Becca, listen. I don't know how else...
That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on. I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you always do? It's not like...
Let him talk, Becca. I think he's about to say something.
Rebecca, will you hear me out first?
The silence I can offer him, but whether I'll believe what he's about to say is still up for debate. A very long debate.
I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her. But you should stay away from these people for now. Especially the husband.
Who? Luke?
His expression deepens into a scowl at the mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about it has greatly displeased him, evident in the stiff note his tone assumes.
Yeah, he's bad news.
There's something worse in the house, you dense motherfucker. Why does he have to do this? Care to explain your reasons? It's my turn to frown this time. What does he mean by that? What does he have to do with any of this?
Oh, what does he have to do with this?
It's not a question without merit. Though the man can be quite abrasive, sometimes downright nasty with his words, you can't simply accuse someone by virtue of that alone. And it is an accusation no matter how much Ashton's phrasing downplays her meaning. What right does he have to tell me who I should associate myself with, without even bothering to tell me his reasons at that?
Plenty. Just trust me on this, Becca.
Don't you Becca me. That doesn't answer my question at all, Ash. You haven't answered any of my questions, in fact. What's really going on here?
I want to hear it from him. If we were to go down this route, I want to hear it straight from his mouth. Because whatever he thinks of that man, I haven't found any reason why I should be wary of him. Sure, we've started off on the wrong foot, but he's a decent guy when he tries. A simple explanation is all I want. Is that really so hard for him to understand?
The situation's complicated.
And you know nothing about the ghost.
One mistake and you guys could...
So, we're back here again. More secrets? Why can't you be honest to me for once?
He's a dangerous man to be around, Rebecca.
Really? Care to elaborate on that? Because from what I've seen, the only dangerous thing about that guy is his audacity to cheat on his wife.
Oh, there's evidence of that. We have Marianne, we have Rochelle, and a lot more, maybe.
Why are you defending him?
Who said anything about defending anyone?
You know, I'm getting really worried about you guys. First it's Zach, and now you're...
Oh, you're worried?
Somehow, even that concern feels empty to me, even if it's from him.
You care? Really now? If you care, then where were you the entire party?
That doesn't matter right now. You know I can't simply...
Forget it, Ashton. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about this anymore tonight. Speak to me when you're ready to stop spouting the same barefaced lies.
Ashton jerks back as if I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his features, his eyes narrowing and hands closing in tightly into a fist at his sides. It does little to lull my ill harbor because in the next second, his answer sounds nothing of the apologetic tone I'm expecting from him.
Fine!
A little regret would have been nice.
Fine.
In my anger, I don't even notice when I've climbed inside his car. Not until I've slammed its door behind me with as much force as I can summon. He follows soon after and shortly we're on our way back to the city. Yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense somber air from the mansion still lingers. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salemville. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. That isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dawdles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away purely out of spite the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritation might still rear its head every time I look at him now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive. Especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest.
You can borrow the couch.
I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms in his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a wary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way.
You haven't been forgiven. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest.
We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in process.
Where are you going? I thought...
You go ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew.
Why?
Andrew? Why would you... Oh, no.
Oh, we're gonna ask about the
Please.
mansion.
Is this that thing Isabella said this morning? Again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC crap. No need to drag the old guy into it.
Oh, he's probably dead. Of course, he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seeing anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. Yeah, for some reason, why is Ash the only one not seeing the fucking ghost anywhere? Why is he not seeing Takako? But this is another loose end tonight that I just can't leave alone, Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I can delve into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself.
Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite after that stunt you pulled tonight?
No? But this is...
I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he can finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand.
Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here. And yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me. And I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton.
He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case for it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movements when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too... conflicted.
Are you really sure?
What?
that there was something? That you've been, seeing things?
Why are you asking now?
Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go! And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Belle gave me. You haven't even replaced that one.
The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quip or two about that, followed by light banter. Something tells me when we call the professor, someone else will pick up. Instead, for a long moment, I'm left staring after him. There's something in the way he asked it that nags. Coupled with his expression, the whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from the unease. Ashton does not intend for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what though? For my well-being? The letter's curse? The woman I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally, the call connects and Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver.
Professor Andrew?
Hello?
Rebecca? It's late.
So good that you're still alive.
What can I do for you?
I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent.
After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake and we're still in the dark.
Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favor.